My brother's bachelor party was a trap to humiliate me, so I walked out and took the only car. The final slide stayed frozen on the screen for exactly 7 seconds before I moved. I know because I counted. 7 seconds of Tommy's text messages glowing against the cabin wall, projected in crisp white letters for everyone to see. Having Kevin as best man is hilarious. He's so desperate for approval. He'll plan everything and then we can roast him. Perfect entertainment. Get him drunk first so he cries. Classic Kevin. 7 seconds of my brother's friends howling with laughter. 7 seconds of my face burning hot while something ice cold settled in my chest. Then I stood up and 12 grown men went silent. I'd been rebuilding my life for 5 years when Tommy called. 5 years of therapy. 5 years of career changes. 5 years of learning that the way my family treated me wasn't normal, wasn't okay, and wasn't something I had to accept anymore. Dr. Patricia Reeves, my therapist of 4 years, had helped me understand that. She had her practice on the 6th floor of the Meridian building downtown, and every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m., I sat in her beige chair and learned how to stop apologizing for existing. Dysfunctional family systems often assign roles, she'd explained during our first session. The golden child, the scapegoat, the lost child. These roles serve a purpose. They maintain the family's equilibrium, even when that equilibrium is toxic. I was the scapegoat. I'd always known it, but I didn't have the language for it until I was 32 years old and sitting in that beige chair, realizing that my entire childhood had been a setup for exactly this kind of moment. Tommy was 3 years older. Growing up, he was everything I wasn't. Athletic, where I was awkward. Charming, where I was anxious. Effortlessly popular, where I struggled to make a single friend. My parents didn't mean to compare us constantly. They just did. Why can't you be more like your brother? Tommy would never act like this. Look at Tommy's report card. Look at Tommy's trophy. Look at Tommy. I tried. God, I tried. I spent my entire adolescence trying to be someone Tommy would be proud to call his brother. I followed him around at family events. I laughed at his jokes even when they were cruel. I let him copy my homework because at least then he needed me for something. It didn't work. It never works with people like Tommy. The more you give, the more they take, and the more they resent you for having something worth taking. The last time we'd spoken, really spoken, was at our grandmother's funeral 5 years ago. He'd made a joke about my divorce at the reception, called my ex-wife the smart one for leaving, said it loud enough for our aunts and uncles to hear. When I confronted him later, he told me I was too sensitive. Classic Kevin, he'd said, rolling his eyes. Can't take a joke. I walked out of that funeral home and didn't look back. Changed my number. Moved to Portland. Started over. For 5 years, I had peace. Then he called. I know I don't deserve this, Tommy said. His voice was different, softer. But I'm getting married, Kev, and I don't want to do it without my brother. I was standing in my kitchen, stirring pasta sauce, when his name appeared on my screen. I'd almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. We haven't talked in 5 years, Tommy. I know. That's my fault. A pause. I heard him exhale. I've been thinking a lot lately. About us. About how I treated you growing up. I wasn't a good brother. The pasta sauce started to bubble. I turned down the heat. No, I said. You weren't. I want to fix that. Melissa, that's my fiancée. She made me realize some things. About family. About what matters. His voice cracked slightly. I want you to be my best man, Kevin. I want my brother standing next to me when I get married. I didn't say anything for a long time. Please, he said. Give me a chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway. Dr. Reeves was skeptical. What do you think he wants? She asked during our next session. Her reading glasses were perched on her nose, and she was making notes in her leather-bound journal, the one she'd used for all 4 years of our work together. He says he wants to reconnect. That's what he says. What do you think he wants? I stared at the ceiling. The office had those acoustic tiles with little holes in them. I'd counted them once. 247 tiles. I think maybe he actually means it this time. Dr. Reeves set down her pen. Kevin, in the 4 years we've worked together, you've told me about Tommy calling you the family charity case at Thanksgiving, about him telling your ex-wife embarrassing stories at your own wedding rehearsal, about him stealing your business idea and pitching it to investors before you could. That was a long time ago. The funeral was 5 years ago. That's not ancient history. She leaned forward. I'm not telling you what to do, but I am asking you to consider, has anything actually changed, or do you just want it to have changed? I didn't have an answer. My parents were thrilled. Finally, my mother's voice was breathless with joy when I called to tell her. Finally, you two are going to be close again. This is exactly what I prayed for. I knew Tommy would come around. I knew it. She didn't ask how I felt about it. She didn't ask if I was ready. She just assumed that Tommy reaching out meant everything was fixed, like 5 years of estrangement could be erased by a single phone call. My father was similar. similar but more practical. Give him a chance, son. He's reaching out. That takes courage. Don't hold on to the past forever. That's not healthy. Let bygones be bygones. Bygones. Like my childhood was a minor inconvenience. Like 20 years of being the family punching bag was something I should just let go of. Even Marcus, my best friend since college, encouraged me. People change, Kevin. We were at Brennan's pub on 5th Street, nursing beers after a long week. Marcus had been there for my divorce, my career implosion, my entire breakdown and rebuilding. If anyone had earned the right to be cynical about Tommy, it was him. Maybe he finally grew up. What's the worst that could happen? I took a long drink. He humiliates me again, makes me feel like garbage in front of his friends. Then you leave. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago, man. You know your worth now. If he pulls something, you walk away. Marcus shrugged. But maybe, just maybe, he actually wants his brother back. Wouldn't that be worth finding out? I wanted to believe them. All of them. So I did. I threw myself into planning the bachelor party like it was my job. 3 months of coordination, spreadsheets, group chats, a rental cabin in the mountains, 2 hours from the nearest town, the kind of rustic luxury that costs $4,200 for a weekend but looks like Instagram perfection. I put down the deposit myself. $1,800 non-refundable. 12 guys total. Tommy, me, and 10 of his friends. I only knew a few of them. Ryan, his college roommate. Derek, who he'd worked with at the marketing firm. Brad, who'd been at our grandmother's funeral and laughed at Tommy's divorce joke. The others were names on a screen, avatars in a group chat, strangers I was bending over backward to impress. I created an itinerary. Poker night Friday, hiking Saturday morning, grilling and drinking Saturday afternoon, a best man roast Saturday night, Tommy's request. I'd prepared a speech, 15 minutes of gentle ribbing, childhood stories, and genuine emotion about what it meant to see my brother getting married. I'd practiced it in front of my mirror, in front of Marcus, in front of Dr. Reeves, who listened patiently and only raised her eyebrows twice. "You're putting a lot of effort into this," she observed. "He's my brother. He's also the person who spent 30 years treating you like a joke." She paused. "I want you to have a boundary plan. What will you do if things go wrong?" I laughed. "Things aren't going to go wrong. He's different now. This is going to be the start of something new." She didn't argue. She just wrote something in her journal and moved on. The drive up to the cabin was beautiful. Early October, and the trees were exploding with color, burnt orange, deep red, flashes of gold against the evergreens. I'd rented a Toyota 4Runner for the trip, all-wheel drive for the mountain roads, and I'd loaded it with supplies, coolers of beer, bags of groceries, poker chips, a portable projector for movie night. Tommy rode with me. 2 hours of winding roads and conversation that felt, for the first time in years, almost normal. "Melissa's incredible," he told me, talking about his fiancée. "She doesn't take any of my crap, calls me out when I'm being an ass." He laughed. "She'd probably like you. You two are similar that way." "Similar how?" "I don't know. Both good at seeing through people's bullshit, I guess." I glanced at him. He was staring out the window, watching the trees blur past. "I really am sorry, Kev. For everything. I know I was a terrible brother." "Yeah." I kept my eyes on the road. "You were. I'm trying to be better. I don't know if I'll succeed, but I'm trying." Something loosened in my chest. Something I'd been holding tight for 5 years. "That's all I'm asking," I said. The first night was everything I'd hoped for. We arrived around 4 p.m., unloaded the cars, claimed bedrooms, cracked open the first round of beers. The cabin was gorgeous. Open floor plan, massive stone fireplace, wall-to-wall windows looking out over a valley of autumn forest. Ryan started a fire while Derek set up the poker table. Brad connected his phone to the Bluetooth speaker, and suddenly, Hotel California was echoing through the rafters. Tommy was in his element, laughing, telling stories, slapping people on the back, but he kept looking over at me, kept including me. "Kevin planned all this, by the way," he announced at dinner, raising his glass. 3 months of work, Best brother a guy could ask for. Everyone cheered, clinked glasses, and for one shining moment, I believed it was real. We played poker until 2 a.m. I won $180. Tommy lost gracefully and made jokes about how I'd always been the smart one. We swapped childhood stories, some embarrassing, some sweet, none cruel. At one point, Tommy threw his arm around my shoulder and said, "I missed you, man." My throat went tight. I missed you too. I went to bed that night feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The first red flag came Saturday morning. I woke up early, 6:47 a.m. according to my phone, and wandered to the kitchen to start coffee. The cabin was silent except for the occasional snore drifting down the hallway. I enjoyed the quiet, made myself breakfast, sat by the window and watched the mist rise off the valley. That's when I noticed Tommy's phone on the kitchen counter. I wasn't going to look. I had no reason to look. But then it buzzed, and my eyes flicked to the screen automatically, and I saw the preview. Derek. Everything set for tonight? Something prickled at the back of my neck. I told myself it was nothing. Probably just confirming dinner plans or the movie schedule. I'd put Best Man Roast on the itinerary for 8 p.m. Maybe Derek was double-checking the time. I made coffee and tried to forget about it. The second red flag came during the hike. We'd found a trail about 30 minutes from the cabin, moderate difficulty, beautiful views. About 4 miles round trip. The group spread out naturally, faster hikers pulling ahead, slower ones falling behind. I ended up walking with Ryan, Tommy's college roommate. Ryan was nice enough, quiet. He worked in finance, had 2 kids, seemed like the kind of guy who paid his taxes on time and never caused problems. But about a mile in, he said something strange. "You know, it's really cool you agreed to do this." "Do what? Plan the bachelor party?" "No, I mean..." He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "The whole roast thing. Tommy said you were totally on board." I frowned. On board with what? Ryan's face went red. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." Ryan. "Seriously, it's nothing, just... Tommy said you guys talked about it. The presentation or whatever." "What presentation?" He stopped walking. Stared at his hiking boots like they held the secrets of the universe. "I think I'm going to catch up with the others," he said, and jogged ahead before I could ask anything else. I told myself it was nothing. That's what you do, right? When the people you love show you who they are, your brain scrambles to find an excuse. He misspoke. I misheard. It's probably just a slideshow of funny photos. Tommy knows I'm sensitive about certain things. He wouldn't do anything too bad. Rationalization is a survival mechanism. I'd learned that in therapy. When your family has trained you to accept mistreatment, your mind builds elaborate structures to justify it. Otherwise, you'd have to face the truth. The people who should protect you are the ones hurting you most. I pushed down the unease, focused on the hike. Took photos of the view and sent them to Marcus with a text. So far, so good. Maybe he really has changed. Marcus replied, "Proud of you, man. Enjoy yourself." I tried. The third red flag came during dinner. We were grilling steaks on the back deck. The sun was setting, painting the valley in shades of pink and gold, and everyone was pleasantly buzzed from an afternoon of day drinking. I was manning the grill, happy to have a task, something to focus on besides the growing knot in my stomach. Brad wandered over. Brad, who'd laughed at Tommy's divorce joke 5 years ago. Brad, who'd always looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. "Big night tonight, huh?" He grinned and took a swig of his beer. "Tommy's been planning this for months." "Has he?" "Oh yeah, he's been talking about it since, like, July. Said this was gonna be the highlight of the whole weekend." My hands tightened on the grill tongs. "The roast?" "The whole thing, man. The whole presentation." Brad laughed. He said you'd never see it coming. The steak sizzled. Fat dripped onto the coals, sending up a plume of smoke. "What do you mean?" Never see it coming. Brad's grin faltered. He looked at me, really looked at me, and something shifted in his expression, like he'd realized he'd said too much. Just, the roast. Best man gets roasted, right? Classic stuff. He clapped me on the shoulder. Don't worry about it. You'll love it. He walked away before I could respond. I went to my room after dinner, told everyone I needed to freshen up before the roast. In reality, I sat on the edge of my bed and tried to control my breathing. In through the nose, 4 counts. Hold for 7. Out through the mouth, 8 counts. Dr. Reeves had taught me that. It was supposed to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, calm the body so the mind could think. My hands were shaking. I kept hearing Ryan's words. Tommy said you guys talked about it, the presentation. I kept seeing Brad's grin. He said you'd never see it coming. I wanted to believe they were wrong, wanted to believe Tommy had changed, that the last 2 days meant something, that my brother, wouldn't deliberately set me up for humiliation in front of a room full of people. But the part of me that had spent 32 years as the family scapegoat knew better. I pulled out my phone, almost called Dr. Reeves. But it was Saturday night, and she didn't take calls on weekends except for emergencies. Was this an emergency? I didn't know. I didn't know anything anymore. Instead, I texted Marcus. Something feels wrong. I think Tommy might be planning something. He replied immediately. What kind of something? I don't know. People keep making weird comments about tonight. About the presentation. About me, never seeing it coming. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Trust your gut, Kevin. You know your brother better than anyone. If something feels off, it probably is. I stared at those words for a long time. Then someone knocked on my door. Kevin, roast starts in 10 minutes. Tommy's voice bright and eager. Get out here, buddy. I took a deep breath, put on my game face, and walked into the trap. The main room had been transformed. Someone had set up the projector I'd brought, the one I'd intended for movie night, and pointed it at the largest white wall. Chairs were arranged in a semicircle. A makeshift stage area had been cleared near the fireplace. Beer bottles lined every surface. 12 faces turned to look at me as I entered. There he is! Tommy bounded over, threw his arm around my shoulder. The man of the hour! I thought you were the man of the hour, I said. It's your bachelor party. Tonight's about you, brother. He steered me toward the center of the room. Sit right here, front and center. The knot in my stomach tightened, but I sat. What else could I do? If I refused, I'd be the crazy one, the paranoid one. Classic Kevin, can't take a joke. Tommy took his position near the projector. Derek handed him a beer. Brad started a slow clap that spread through the room. All right, settle down. Tommy grinned at the crowd. So, we've got a tradition to uphold here. Bachelor party means the best man gets roasted, and since my brother Kevin, he gestured at me like a game show host, has been kind enough to plan this entire weekend, it's only fair we show him some appreciation. Light chuckles from the crowd. I forced a smile. Now, I've been putting this together for a while. Tommy clicked something on his laptop, and the projector hummed to life. 3 months, actually, since Kevin agreed to be my best man. The screen went blue. Then a title appeared. Kevin Through the Years, a Tribute. A few people laughed at the word tribute. I felt my smile faltering. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Shall we? The first slide was my middle school yearbook photo. Braces, acne, a haircut that looked like my mother had done it with kitchen scissors, which she had. Look at this legend, Tommy said, narrating. 7th grade. This was right before Kevin got voted most likely to be a virgin forever. Laughter. Loud, brutal laughter. I remembered that vote. Someone had passed around a notebook during lunch. They'd tallied the results and announced them in front of the entire cafeteria. I'd pretended to laugh along, went home and cried in my room for 3 hours. Classic Kevin, Tommy continued, clicking to the next slide. More photos, more humiliation. Me at 15, caught mid-sneeze at a family reunion. Me at 17, passed out at a party with permanent marker drawn all over my face. Me at 19, crying at our grandmother's funeral, a picture I didn't even know existed. "This one's good," Tommy said, clicking again. The screen showed me at prom. Specifically, it showed the exact moment Danny Kowalski yanked my pants down in front of the entire junior class. Someone had taken a photo. Someone had saved that photo for 15 years. And now it was being projected onto a wall while 12 men I barely knew roared with laughter. My face was burning. My hands gripped the armrests of my chair. "But wait," Tommy said. "There's more." The next section was titled, "Kevin's Greatest Hits, Career Edition." A screenshot of a news article. Local startup files for bankruptcy after 6 months. My face was visible in the photo, standing outside my failed business, looking shell-shocked and defeated. "This was Kevin's entrepreneur phase," Tommy said, using air quotes. "He borrowed $60,000 from our parents to start a subscription box company for craft beer?" More laughter. Someone muttered, 60 grand? Jesus. It lasted 6 months. 6 months. And then Kevin moved to Portland and pretended it never happened. The next slide was an email. My email. A rejection from a job I'd applied for 2 years ago. "Dear Mr. Morrison, thank you for your interest in the marketing director position at Hartwell & Associates. After careful review, we have decided to move forward with other candidates." "I found this in his desk," Tommy said casually. "When we were helping him move, he'd printed it out and kept it. Can you imagine? Keeping your rejection letters?" I hadn't kept it as a trophy. I'd kept it as motivation, a reminder to keep trying. But Tommy made it sound pathetic, made me sound pathetic. The room was still laughing. My vision was starting to blur. Then came the divorce. Kevin's love life, a tragedy in 3 acts. A wedding photo. Me and Jessica on our wedding day 3 years ago. We looked happy. We were happy for a while, before everything fell apart. Act 1. The wedding, Tommy narrated. Kevin somehow convinced a woman to marry him. We were all shocked. Next slide. A screenshot from Jessica's Instagram, posted 1 week after we filed for divorce. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you made a mistake. Starting over at 31, here's to new beginnings. Act 2. The divorce. Turns out Jessica figured out what we all already knew, that Kevin's kind of a loser. My throat was closing. I couldn't breathe. Act 3. Tommy clicked to the next slide. A screenshot of my dating profile. My private dating profile. Photos I'd taken specifically for that app. A bio I'd written, all of it projected onto a wall for everyone to see. Looking for someone to share craft beer and hiking adventures. Dog dad to a rescue mutt named Chester, probably watching The Office right now. 32, divorced, still figuring things out. "Still figuring things out," Tommy repeated, snorting. "He's been figuring things out for his whole life." The room erupted, and that's when the final slide appeared. Why Kevin agreed to be best man. A text conversation. Between Tommy and Derek. Dated 3 months earlier. Tommy. Having Kevin as best man is hilarious. Derek. Why? Isn't he kind of boring? Tommy. He's so desperate for approval. He'll plan everything and then we can roast him. Perfect entertainment. Derek. Lol. That's cold, man. Tommy. Get him drunk first so he cries. Classic Kevin. The messages stayed frozen on the screen. I counted to 7. 7 seconds of silence. 7 seconds of understanding that every single thing, the phone call, the apology, the road trip, the late-night conversation about Melissa, all of it, had been a setup. 7 seconds of realizing that my brother hadn't changed at all. He'd just gotten better at pretending. Then the room exploded with laughter, and someone shoved a beer into my hand. Drink up, buddy, Brad's voice. Don't be so sensitive. I stared at the bottle. My hands were shaking. I almost laughed along, almost told myself it was just jokes, almost drank the beer and pretended I wasn't dying inside. That's what the old Kevin would have done. That's what I'd done my whole life. Swallowed my pain, smiled through the humiliation, told myself I was the problem for having feelings at all. Classic Kevin. Can't take a joke. I almost stayed. Then I looked at the screen again. Perfect entertainment. Something cold settled in my chest. Something final. I set the beer on the table, stood up, walked to my room. I packed in 3 minutes flat. Clothes, toiletries, phone charger. I didn't fold anything, just shoved it all into my bag with mechanical efficiency. My hands had stopped shaking. My vision had cleared. I felt calm, the kind of calm that comes after you've accepted something terrible. Tommy appeared in my doorway. "Where are you going?" I didn't look at him. "Home. We're just having fun. You're fun." He laughed, trying to sell it. "Come back out there, we'll tone it down." I zipped my bag, grabbed my keys. "Come on." His voice shifted, less confident now. "Don't be dramatic." I walked past him into the hallway. "Kevin." I kept walking. "Kevin." I reached the front door. 12 pairs of eyes watched me from the living room. The projector was still on. My dating profile was still glowing on the wall. "You can't just leave," Tommy said, following me outside. "This is my bachelor party. You're the best man." I stopped at my car. The Toyota 4Runner. The only vehicle I owned. The only vehicle that wasn't a rental or a rideshare. "How are you even going to get home?" Derek called from the porch. "I drove up with Ryan. Brad took an Uber." I looked at Tommy. Exactly. His face changed. Finally, I saw a flicker of fear. "Kevin, stop." Tommy grabbed my arm. "We're 2 hours from anywhere. You can't leave us stranded." I shook him off, opened the car door. "Should have thought about that before you made me your entertainment. It was just jokes." The texts weren't jokes. My voice was steady, calm, cold. "You planned this for 3 months, Tommy. You called me. You apologized. You told me you wanted your brother back. And the whole time, you were just setting me up." He opened his mouth, closed it. "You asked me to be your best man so you could humiliate me in front of your friends." I climbed into the driver's seat. "That wasn't a roast. That was a trap." That's taken out of context." "What context?" I stared at him through the open window. "What context makes any of that okay?" Silence. The night air was cold. Somewhere in the trees, an owl hooted. "You're really gonna leave?" Tommy's voice cracked. "You're gonna strand 12 people in the middle of nowhere?" I started the engine. "Watch me." I drove for 2 hours through dark country roads. No music, no podcasts. Just the hum of the engine and the glow of my headlights cutting through the darkness. My hands were steady on the wheel. I didn't cry. I was past crying, past hoping, past caring what any of them thought. At 11:47 p.m., I stopped at a gas station in a town called Millbrook, population 3,200, one traffic light, a diner that was closed for the night, and a convenience store with a bored teenager behind the counter. I bought a coffee, black, stood in the parking lot and looked up at the stars. My phone had 17 missed calls from Tommy, 23 texts from various numbers, some angry, some confused, some pleading. I read them all. Tommy: "Kevin, come back, this is insane, Derek. Dude, what the hell, Brad? Real mature asshole. Now we're all stranded." Ryan: "Hey man, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was going to be like that. For what it's worth, I thought it was messed up." Tommy: "Kevin, seriously, this is my bachelor party. Mom and Dad are going to hear about this." Tommy: "Kevin, please." Tommy: "Fine. Be that way." Classic Kevin. I finished my coffee, got back in the car. I found out later that they called an Uber. $400 split 12 ways. The driver had to make 3 trips because he could only fit 4 people at a time. Tommy missed half his bachelor party activities the next day because the last group didn't get back to the cabin until 7 a.m. I hope he enjoyed his eggs. The wedding was 3 weeks later. I didn't attend. I'd already paid for the tux rental, $275 plus a $50 cleaning fee, so I returned it unworn, sent Tommy and Melissa a card with a $100 gift card to Williams-Sonoma. Generic and impersonal, which was exactly the point. My mother called the night before the ceremony. "You're really not coming? To your own brother's wedding?" "No. Kevin, this is ridiculous. It was just a bachelor party. Boys will be boys. You're blowing this way out of proportion." "Did Tommy tell you what happened?" A pause. "He said there was a little roast that got out of hand. He showed everyone my dating profile, my ex-wife's Instagram posts, a photo of me getting pantsed at prom. And then he put up texts from 3 months ago where he called me perfect entertainment and said he wanted to get me drunk so I'd cry." Silence. That's not what? "I'm sure he didn't mean it like that." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Okay, Mom. Kevin, I'm not going to the wedding. I'm not apologizing. And if you or Dad want to keep pretending that Tommy's behavior is normal, that's your choice. But I'm done." I hung up. The fallout lasted months. My father sent a 5-paragraph email about forgiveness and family bonds and how holding grudges only hurts yourself. I didn't respond. My mother texted me every few weeks, cycling between guilt trips. "I cried at the wedding because you weren't there," and passive-aggressive updates. "Tommy and Melissa looked so happy. Too bad you missed it." I responded with one-word answers when I responded at all. Tommy sent 2 messages. The first, 3 weeks after the wedding. "Hey, I know you're probably still mad, but we should talk." The second, 2 months later. "Mom says you're not returning her calls. Can you at least talk to her? She's really upset." I ignored both. Dr. Reeves helped me process the aftermath. We added an extra session per week for the first 2 months. "You did something incredibly difficult," she told me. "You broke a lifelong pattern. The family system is pushing back because your defection threatens their equilibrium. That's normal. That's expected. But it doesn't mean you were wrong. I left 12 people stranded in the mountains. You protected yourself from further abuse. The inconvenience you caused them is nothing compared to the harm they were willing to inflict on you. My mom says I ruined Tommy's bachelor party. Your mom has spent your entire life prioritizing Tommy's feelings over yours. Why would she stop now?" I didn't have an answer. 8 months passed. I threw myself into work, a marketing position at a tech company, nothing glamorous but stable. I adopted a second dog, a golden retriever mix named Murphy, who immediately became best friends with Chester. I started running, trained for a half marathon. Ran it in October, crossing the finish line in 2:14:37. Marcus was at the finish line holding a sign that said, "Classic Kevin, the good version." I laughed so hard I cried. I was happy, actually happy. Not the forced, performative happiness I'd always shown my family, but real contentment, the kind that comes from living your life on your own terms. Then Tommy sent the email. It arrived on a Tuesday at 4:23 p.m., right before my session with Dr. Reeves. Subject: I'm sorry. Kevin, I've written this email about 50 times. I keep deleting it because nothing I say feels like enough. But Melissa says I need to try, so here goes. I was wrong. Not just about the bachelor party, but about everything. The way I treated you growing up. The way I made you the punchline of every joke. The way I let our parents compare us and never stood up for you. I told myself it was just how brothers acted, that you were too sensitive, that you needed to toughen up. But that was bullshit. I was a terrible brother, and I've been a terrible brother for 30 years. The bachelor party was supposed to be a roast, but that's not what it was. It was cruel. It was planned. And the worst part is, I knew it was wrong while I was doing it. I knew those texts would hurt you. I showed them anyway because my friends thought it was funny. And I cared more about impressing them than protecting you. That's not an excuse. There is no excuse. I'm just trying to explain the person I was. I've been talking to a therapist. Her name is Dr. Linda Vasquez. She works out of the Eastwood Medical Center on Turner Avenue. You can verify that if you want. I'll sign a release form if you want to confirm I'm actually going. She's helped me understand some things, about why I treated you the way I did, about the family dynamics we grew up in, about how I used you to feel better about myself, which was incredibly unfair. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve that, but I'm asking if you're ever willing for a chance to try again. Not to be the brother I was, to be the brother I should have been. No timelines, no pressure. If you want to meet for coffee in 5 years, I'll be there. If you never want to speak to me again, I understand. I just wanted you to know. I see you now. I see what I did. And I'm sorry. Tommy, I read the email 3 times. Then I brought it to Dr. Reeves. What do you think? She asked after I'd read it aloud. I don't know. What do you want to do? I stared at the ceiling. 247 tiles. Part of me wants to respond. Part of me wants to believe he's changed. But I believed that before, and look what happened. So you're uncertain. I'm terrified. I looked at her. What if I give him another chance and he hurts me again? What if this is just another setup? Dr. Reeves set down her pen. What if it's not? What? You've asked what happens if it's a trap, but what if it isn't? What if he genuinely has changed? What if he's doing the same work you've done? Learning, growing, confronting his patterns? Then, I trailed off. Then what? Then I have a decision to make about whether I want him in my life. Exactly, and that decision is yours, not your mother's, not your father's, not Tommy's, yours. I waited a week, then another, then another. Marcus asked about it over beers one night. You gonna respond? I don't know. What does your gut say? My gut says he might actually mean it this time, but my gut has been wrong before. Marcus nodded slowly. You know what I think? What? I think you're not the same person you were 8 months ago. You walked away from that cabin. You protected yourself. You set a boundary and held it. He took a sip of his beer. Whatever you decide about Tommy, you know you can handle it. You've already proven that. Last week, I drafted a response. Tommy, I got your email. I've been thinking about it for 3 weeks. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can trust you. What happened at that cabin, and everything that came before it, broke something in me. Some of it may never heal. But I'm willing to consider the possibility that people can change. You've done a lot of damage. If you want to repair any of it, it's going to take time. A lot of time. And it has to happen on my terms, not yours. 1 coffee. In a public place. Just the 2 of us. No family, no friends, no audience. We can talk. I can't promise anything beyond that. Kevin, I haven't sent it yet. Still deciding. Here's what I know for sure. If we rebuild anything, if there's any relationship to salvage with my brother, it happens on my timeline. Not his, not my parents', mine. I spent 32 years being the family entertainment, the punchline, the scapegoat who was supposed to absorb everyone else's dysfunction and smile while they piled it on. That person doesn't exist anymore. I killed him in a mountain cabin 8 months ago, when I set down a beer, picked up my keys, and drove away into the darkness while my brother screamed my name. I don't regret it. Not for 1 second. Some people will tell you that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that you should forgive unconditionally, forget the pain, let bygones be bygones. Those people have never been the joke. They've never had their worst moments projected onto a wall while people they should trust laugh at their pain. They've never read text messages from their own brother describing them as perfect entertainment. I have, and I'm done. The half-marathon medal hangs on my wall now. 2:14:37. Not a record-breaking time, but I wasn't racing anyone else. I was racing the version of myself who would have stayed at that cabin, who would have laughed along, who would have drank the beer and cried in the bathroom and pretended everything was fine. That version lost. This version, the one who left, who set boundaries, who stopped apologizing for existing, won. Classic Kevin, I guess. The good version.